All right, so that being said, on this personal status correction, you know how to get here. thctrust.org is the website. $225 yearly subscription. It gives you all the access to the templates, and I'm always, available one way or another to assist or demonstrate or discuss, provide clarity on any documents or templates that I provide. Here you'll see 1 through 3 videos. These videos pretty much cover from step 1 all the way to, what do we have, step 4. And it covers everything. But the video that I'm doing today is going to be an update for March 21st, 2025, where I'm just going to brush over things that have already been covered. There's always going to be some slight differences when you're actually looking at what's written here and you're looking at the links and the templates. It's always going to be slightly different because I always keep this up to date. I keep the templates, the forms, I keep all of that up to date. And then later on, like I say, I'll come in and make a video and do an overview. All right, so that being said, I have these critical, most important steps, which also include a secure party filing, here on the screen. The first step is step 1. You see it highlighted here, name and address correction. And we start with address correction. Set up a private mailbox. Never receive mail in your legal name at a residential address. All right, so you have a legal name and never receive mail in your legal name at a residential address. What is a residential address? Every address where the post office delivers mail to is a residential address. The word residential, the word residence, is actually a term and a condition, a part of the citizenship contract, right? So basically, a resident of the several districts are indeed citizens of the United States, owing permanent allegiance to the United States. So this is the reason for the address change, because the post office, being the registry for the government, other departments of government access the postal database for information, for records. Notice in courts they always talk about the last known address of the person. Notice they can always identify a person with a name and an address if they don't have a social security number. Because, again, name and address establishes residency, which establishes citizenship. So that makes one subject to a jurisdiction and all the processes of attachment and seizure that come with the jurisdiction. So what we are essentially trying to do with this step is we're trying to become private. And I have learned from experience, being taught and from experience very much, that this step of setting up a private mailbox and then never receiving mail at a residential address again is going to assist you. It's your first step. Is going to be the most powerful thing that you do with regards to remaining private. Some of this you'll just have to experience over time. Also, so in addition to opening a private mailbox, now what is a private mailbox? Let's Google it real quick. You know what? We don't have to Google it. I'll tell you why we don't have to Google it. Because we have the information right here. So you can't click the link. Some of these links I don't put in here because I realize that sometimes when you start putting government links on your pages like this, when you're researching info, they're going to deactivate those links. So I make you have to copy it and paste it in your browser. Hold on. Copy it. and paste it. Private mailboxes. Private companies offering mailbox rental services to individuals and businesses are considered commercial mail receiving agencies. So this is the thing right there. That's an agency. So the presumption is no longer there. If I deliver mail to John Alex Doe at a residential address, the presumption is John Alex Doe is a resident. And when the mail doesn't get returned to the post office, the acknowledgement of the presumption is such because he took the mail from a residential mailbox. So he acknowledged the presumption. It's almost like a notice and an affirmation of the notice. Because under Title 18, it is a crime to walk away from a mailbox with mail that is not in your name. So if there's a record, this is a very serious, subtle nuance that you don't know. The records of you receiving mail at a residential address is establishing a record of your citizenship, regardless of what you've been saying in your affidavits and all of these other things. So it's equally important as getting a private address, because a private address, now I'm not even going to say that a private address is limited to having to use one of these private companies offering mailboxes, which they are calling a commercial mail receiving agency, a CMRA. So that's one form of being in the private with your mail protocol. Also, however, there is another way, because the key is of what's really happening is it's the agency. This establishes an agency and not a guaranteed suretyship contractual relationship such as receiving mail in the public. Another example of an agency is when you hire an attorney. An attorney is your agent. So I always use the example, an attorney can go to court, he can argue on your behalf, you don't even have to be there. But he's not going to go to jail because he doesn't have the same liability. He is your representative. He represents your name, your person, but there's a different capacity. This is important, and this is why, as a part of personal status correction, we use a power of attorney. Because that shows us that we are not the principal, but we're in a different capacity, although we're operating in the principal's name. See, this is why the power of attorney is part of the secured party filing and it's a part of personal status correction. But anyways, you can see what the private mailbox is. You can see what it looks like. It is very important that you familiarize yourself with what it looks like. And you cannot just create a private mailbox. If this isn't designated the proper address, if it doesn't look like one of these, it's not a private mailbox. You see P&B for private mailbox, RR1, Rural Route 1, I guess, Box 12. You see this pound sign, that also represents private mailbox. 123 Main Street, private mailbox 4545. The pound sign basically means private mailbox, but you can't just intermittently use it. It has to be a part of the address. So again, so it goes along with setting up a private mailbox. And again, you can, check. You can use this. A group of people can use one private mailbox, I believe. Set it up as a business. Talk to the people at there's various private companies that offer this service. Talk to them and find out. And once you have that set up, put in permanent mail forwarders for any address in the public where you may have received mail, where you might be receiving mail, and reject any mail moving forward. And you have to tell your family and the other people that live at an address where you live. You have to put them on the same protocol. Once you put in your permanent mail forwarder to your private mail address, and that way, after that, when they receive mail, you reject it. And not just reject it, you make sure that it is sent back to the post office. You may want to create your own type of rejection sticker or whatever, but you do that for 1 week, a few weeks, a few months, however long it's necessary, and they will document, indicate, or or indicate in their system, in the system, that you are not found within the district, or that there is no residential address for your person. Again, they just threw out federal sexual assault case against Russell Simmons because the federal court said that he didn't have any driver's license, he didn't have any residential addresses, nor any business. He was not a resident. They had no evidence of it. So they lacked jurisdiction. He had to be a resident or a citizen of New York or something to the effect like that. So the point is, I also mentioned driver's license. On the driver's license, the majority of the time, most of the times that I've seen, they will not allow or accept a private address. That's not always the case. But I don't know if if I had to have a driver's license, if I felt for one reason I had to have a driver's license, I would absolutely attempt to have a private address on that driver's license. But I also know that it may be impossible to do that depending on where you live. All that being said, I personally do not have a driver's license. I don't plan on getting a driver's license because it is the type of contract that ties you into the public and gets you tied up into stuff that you don't want to be in. Now, I know somebody's out there saying, oh, you can, but you can just do this, you can just do that. I'm not saying that you don't need a driver's license and all of that. I'm personally saying that I don't have one, and I wouldn't advocate getting one because it's just a risk that I don't want to take. I prefer being in private. I like my life like this. It's better, my opinion. So I have to, navigate around that until a better solution is in play. If I had another residency in another country or something, I would definitely use an international driver's license or something to that effect. But usually when you do that, you have to have the host license from the country, from another country. So again, very important, shut down all receiving mail in the public, permanent mail forwarders, reject all mail, put stickers on the mail, reject it, send it back. If it's possible, remove the mailbox. Do your own research into that. But if it is lawful, mailboxes on your property, remove it. You don't need to get any mail. It'll keep you out of the public. It'll keep you from being served and wrapped up in a whole bunch of shit that you don't want to be wrapped up into. You can further put your no trespassing signs on the property now. No mail and no trespassing on the property. And this will serve you well. Let's see. Also, I have down here, there's an IRS Form 8822, change of address of entity. You can have all of your bills. Well, first I'll say this. If you have another EIN number, maybe you have a foreign situs trust, a sole proprietorship, any other EIN in your name, I would call the electric company, the water company, and I would tell them, hey, I've been a victim of identity theft, or I would tell them whatever you want to tell them, but the social security number has to come off of the utility account. Let me give you this sole proprietorship number, or whatever. And then, not only that, I would tell them you can no longer send any bills to this residential address ever again. And they can do this. What they'll do is tell them to change. Don't change the service address. Change the mailing address on the account, and they'll do that. Furthermore, I would encourage you, for any junk mail, shut the junk mail down. Anything that you don't need to see the paper, then go electronic. Know that your bills are coming up monthly. Handle them. Do everything electronic, because when you're using the private mail receiving agent, it costs you when you receive mail or packages. Now, also, let me explain how that works too. When you have the private mailbox, you go onto the website, you put in your address, your physical address, and they'll show you where the closest services addresses are to you. Usually it's within 3 miles, 2 or 3. If you in a city, it's usually within 2 miles. If you live in there's always one pretty close everywhere, right? So if you use the service, and there's many places, postalannex.com, postnet.com, ipostal1.com right here. I have them on the screen, right? When you receive mail, they'll send you a text message, an email, they'll notify you, and then they'll show you an image of the letter, the from and the to, or the package. You'll see the front of it. And then you can tell them, I'm going to come down there and pick it up. Or you can tell them to open the letter and scan it in. Open the letter, scan it, shred it. You can give them the instructions because they're your agent. But what's most importantly is you're keeping yourself out of the jurisdiction by doing this, right? Now that you have a private mailing address and you never receive mail in the public anymore, we move on to the name correction, right? The name correction is really just you creating another in legis to operate through. There was an estate, as I always say, that was created when you were born. Excuse the lighter in the background that you're about to hear. Is an estate that was created when you were born. And the document that recognized that is the certificate of live birth. That instrumentality of the organization, that estate, is actually using your trade name, right? And we know that there's an individual surety and all this stuff that's going on with the person. So the name correction is us actually creating an in legis for our purposes, for us to operate even in our private capacity. That's actually what it's really for. And you'll see that as you see how it works. Now, for the name correction, I'm a Moorish American. My name on my certificate of live birth is Sylvester Dealan Moore. And then I went to the court and I had a name correction to add the appellation L to the end of my name. And what I would tell you, some people will say you don't have to go to court to do that, and there's all these other ways. There's probably 1,000 ways that you can do it. But because I had this long-term objective of the pieces of the puzzle that I needed to put together, I had realized that getting a court order name change is the best way, the fastest way, and the most efficient way to reach that objective, to get that recognition on the end of my name. So I say that to say this: the quickest way is get yourself a blue ink pen, go down to your county courthouse, make sure you have a good 2 hours that day so that you don't get frustrated. Get yourself about $125, $130 and go down to the probate court and ask them, can I get a package for a name change? And then they'll give you the package if they have one. They say, oh, it's on our website, whatever. Ask them, can they print it out? Is there a way I can print it out here? Pull up a chair and just fill it out by hand. And then turn it in. And if they say, oh, you got to change that, go back, fill it out, turn it in. Oh, you got to go over here, file this, go ahead and do it, come back, turn it in. And just, spend your time until you get it done. I say go with the blue pen because don't take it home and then mail it off or go back and then find out they calling you 5 days later because this has, you know what I'm saying? So I just say take the time, go in there with your blue pen, go back and forth, and accomplish that. One thing down one day. Bring the $125 because somewhere they're going to tell you have to go take this over to the newspaper, publish this for 3 weeks or whatever. It's probably going to be $50 to $125. So, yeah, it's going to all vary. But the easiest way to get that done is bring a blue pen down to your county and ask them for the package for a name correction. And what you're actually doing is creating a new in legis, right? And when you have it, for example, now, what we're doing is when this court order comes back for this name change, this is the name, or this is the court order that I'm going to use to have my name and appellation properly styled on my passport card, or any other travel documents, or any time that I have to present identification for my own purposes, I want to use the ID or the identity that I'm creating right now with this in legis in the new name. I am actually creating the identity for the private attorney for the estate, or the private representative for the estate, the private banker for the estate, right? This is the identity, the only one who can actually ever do anything. That's who I'm creating. So I get the name with the proper appellation, and then on the actual application of the purpose of the name change is to correct the nationality and the identity. Because my nationality makes me other than a U.S. citizen, right? Because I can't hold dual allegiance to two nationalities. So not only that, I don't have a prima facie residential status by doing business at a residential address. It doesn't create the presumption of 14th Amendment citizenship by way of residency in one of the several districts of the United States. So all this is going on, right? So you see how having the private address and then doing business through the private address so that you're not establishing being a resident in one of the districts, and then your nationality of the private representative who's doing the business for the estate has been published on the record to match the name that has been corrected. So what I'm talking about in my case, an affidavit of nationality or some declaration of nationality would be published in the county for 4 weeks. And in my case, you see that name, it relates to the new name. Notice of Declaration of Nationality of Sylvester Moore L. Proof of publication. Now, once again, these documents are, when I go to get my passport, I have to show my certificate of live birth. I also have to show the court order to show that, and then you write on the application how you want it. So this is how I have Sylvester Moore L. supported by the court order, supported by my affidavit of nationality, and my supplemental statement that will go in with the passport when it's time to apply for that. But I just want to show you, you see how these things is connecting? And that's just in the first step, but it's going to connect like that in other steps. But this is also connecting like this because it's supposed to change how you're doing your business moving forward so you can remain private and protected. So that was name and address correction, court order. Then you could do a publication. And by the way, you can modify this. Not everybody believes in the same thing or has the same exact circumstance. Your affidavit of nationality or your declaration of nationality or whatever you publish might be different. But I think it should be related to nationality because, or if it is related to nationality, you're establishing something other than 14th Amendment citizenship for the private capacity in which you intend to operate from. All right, that being said, let's get on down here to step 2. You know what? I'm going to take a break right here, and then we'll start another video for step 2. But by the way, if you enjoy this content, this is your brother Sylvester Moore Eel from thctrust.org. You can get the membership yearly is $225. Check the information below. That gives you access to all my templates, including the secure party templates and my instructional tutorials, access to me so I can answer your questions on where and how you record and file these documents and why it's done like that. Yeah, join the thctrust.org conference discussion group, Telegram group below this video, and we will pick up with step 2, talking about the other instruments next.